Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Bugbear's Basement. I am Bugbear, or Chester C. Busby III, of course, and welcome to everybody. Of course, we're always happy to have you guys in here, and we always want you to take a look at our links and be part of the things we're doing. But mainly, we're just happy to be here and talk about nerd stuff because that's what we do. Bugbear's Basement is our ultra nerd dive, and we welcome you guys to be part of that. I see we've got Roger Hiller in here and Joshua already. Awesome, awesome. Glad to have you guys. Just keep in mind, hit that share button, let everybody know, because we're doing a live stream. So you never know if YouTube is going to be paying attention, notifications or not. But I don't know if you know this, Denali, but on the YouTube studios side, where you set up your videos and you do all the managing of your channel, they actually put
Yeah.
up YouTube videos for us to watch and to give us information and direction. And they actually had a video up that was talking about how notifications work.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
bunch of nonsense. Basically, you have to be popular to get notification, is what it comes down
Pretty
to, I
much.
guess.
Yeah, they're gonna just focus on, hey, you're making views, awesome. Making a tons of view, fantastic. Making a boatload of views, you're brilliant. So let's notify everybody else to keep watching and make more money.
Yeah, exactly. But whatever. YouTube do whatever they want. But I do think it's interesting that they actually have videos for YouTubers specifically that comes out from YouTube itself, and they got this little super ethnic one of every color team that comes and talks to us. Yeah, Bethany says, yeah, my notifications never work. Yeah, they don't. You have to have a certain amount of streaming. You know what they did mention in one of those videos? They actually did mention Social Blade. Now, I don't know if I don't think that's owned by YouTube, right? You know Social Blade, Denelli. Is YouTube own that?
Yep.
That's a separate thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a separate thing.
Yeah, yeah. But they did mention it. And actually, we should get somewhat of a standard notifications on this channel, simply because of our Social Blade ranking. But because we do have a pretty good ranking. Our ranking is like a C plus or something like that, right?
Let's see. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think the problem is because our videos are too long. They don't really want to notify it because people don't get the full views. So,
Maybe.
and a lot of the people who do the notifications when you get a small clip, like 10, 15 minutes, and then they'll notify you quicker.
Maybe that's true. Yeah. But it doesn't matter. YouTube is YouTube. We're just having fun over here. We're very happy you guys come and join us, of course. And we have Obi-Wan reviews in here as well. Hello, nice to see you here. So we do have a little bit of crew that's coming in, and we thank you. Now you might notice that we are two people shy, right? Because we're usually running this God's Blood role-playing game here with three people. And that's fine. You can do that kind of game, no problem. But two of my people aren't here. Last week I didn't have everybody here, and now I don't have everybody here either. So it's I don't know what's going on with it, dude. I have no idea. But we have backup plans, so don't worry about it. We are
Backups of
prepared.
backup.
We do have
Yes.
backup plans. But
Yes.
while we give them a couple more minutes, I guess, just to see what's going to go on with them,
Mm-hmm.
because maybe they are getting notifications and then like, oh no, I gotta get, they might be running toward us right now for all I know. But other than that, I guess I just ask, how was your day?
My day was fantastic. It was sunny. It was hot, and it was Florida.
Oh wow. No, I got a super gloomy, rainy day here the past few days, so it's not pretty, not pretty. But that's all right.
Oh
It's also
yeah.
it's a little bit cooler. But the problem is here in Japan, and it's probably the same with you where I live anyway, and where you live in Florida. When we
Mm-hmm.
get rain, after the rain is done, it gets wicked hot and muggy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's the problem.
And what the crazy thing is the sun's still up. It's like
Is it?
shining,
Yeah.
like yeah.
Is there
So that
one or
means it's
two?
it's
Suns.
one,
Just one. Okay.
just one.
Comic Book Bob says, "Hola, well, hola to you, sir." But
Almost us.
I gotta ask because lots of people have been reporting double suns here for the past couple of years.
Well, they're talking about double rainbows as well. But anyways,
That's not even slightly related. When I lived in Hawaii, we saw double rainbows all the time. Actually,
yeah,
I had an apartment. I was living in
yeah,
Queen Emma in
yeah.
Honolulu. It's a beautiful skyscraper apartment complex, and I was up on the 23rd floor, I think, 24th floor, something like that. And but we had it was kind of like a wraparound window type of thing, and so I
Hmm.
had this beautiful cityscape view, and then I had this mountain view. And the mountain view was in this little kind of crag in the crevice of the mountain, and there was rainbows like every day, all throughout the day. There was because that was just a misty point, but they do call it the Rainbow State for a reason. But it was
Right.
quite beautiful actually. Comic Book Box Bob says Mike's supposed to be talking about Gotham's final episode, but he's yammering on about cryptocurrency. Why? Bethany says, sounds like Mike, comic book Bob. Is he still paranoid about it? Yeah, I don't know what Mike's on about cryptocurrency. I'm assuming he's talking about Bitcoin, right? That's the only one
No,
I can
he's
think
probably
of.
well, he's probably talking about how cryptocurrencies can't be stopped by any institutional, uh, like PayPal or Chase or whatever. So I think there's going to be a larger push towards that
Well,
method
I
of
mean,
currency because the more freedom of it, it gets exchanged and there's nobody to uh, basically shame guilt companies into say we're not going to allow more business with this person or whatever because of their views.
oh, I see. Yeah, but the
Yeah.
thing with cryptocurrency is it's just another, maybe a very stark example of what fiat currency is. I mean, because
Mhm.
we use for fiat currency system in the world today, which means that there's no gold, there's no actual value behind any money whatsoever. It's just an agreement between us that a dollar is worth a dollar. Other than that, it's just paper or numbers. It has no actual value. We used to be based upon a gold system, but it's been over 100 years since we've done that. And there's no
Yeah.
country that I know in the world that has an actual gold currency anymore. There might be, but basically everything is a fiat currency, which is if when you look at it, if you go and study it and you understand what fiat currency is, it's kind of shocking to you because it's like, wow, what? My money has no value? Yeah, well, it has no value actually. So a Bitcoin or cryptocurrency is a very stark example of that because the only reason that has any value whatsoever is because the people agree it does, right? It's just digital numbers, right? But it's exactly the same thing as we use today, but it's just internet version. And I'm actually a little bit surprised that I know it's hard to stop, but I'm a little bit surprised some of the countries around the world, maybe even the UN, haven't literally gotten crazy tyrannical about it. But it is interesting to watch it. But I don't know why I could be paranoid about it. Who would care? What is he talking
I
about here? Bethany says, last time I watched, he was calling them the mark of the devil, the 666 thing. Why? Why is he all? Now you get Chester on it. Oh no, I'm not going to get onto it, Bethany. I'm just saying it is what it is. I don't really see the problem in it though. It's just people exchanging and bartering is all it is. It's just it's not a big deal. Yeah. But anyway, looks like we are not getting our people today, so I do apologize to you. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go over here on the other side, guys, and I am going to change the name of this show. So let's see how long it takes for it to react. But let's see here. I'm typing.
reaction time. Yep. So I'm while you're typing. So when are you guys gonna watch? You and your wife gonna watch Endgame?
I'm not sure. She takes care of that kind of stuff, and
That kind of stuff. Uh-huh.
well, she does. Excuse me. For me, what I do is I just kind of run the school and manage things and make money. That's what I do. and she takes care of all the minutia.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah, Bethany says, "Yeah, I just walked out on the topic. Whatever, Mike, don't use it." Yeah, I wonder why he's all caught up about it. I didn't even know it was that controversial. I could see a government's getting upset about it, but I don't know about normal people. Why? It doesn't. What is it? What would you think he'd be stuck on there with that, Denelli?
I have no clue.
Yeah. Well, he is
Yeah.
very much in a Christian, and of course, Christians do love conspiracy theories because they have plenty of their own. And oh, maybe he's just seeing it as a sign and mark of the devil. Because she made that comment. Maybe he's looking at it like that. But I don't know. Whatever.
Too people use it too freely these days. So
I think it's a good thing in a way. It's just another market, you know.
no,
Most
no. I'm talking about the phrase, not the
Oh, the
currency.
mark of the devil. Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
imagine, right? Yeah, yeah. But
It's like the story "Boy Who Cried Wolf." Said so many times that when the actual thing comes, nobody really cares.
yeah, but it's kind of interesting also those kind of conversations, and of course this is something more for a TFT, um, but the thing with it is, it doesn't really matter if you believe in biblical prophecy and you are a stickler to it, meaning a literal interpreter of the Bible, which I do believe Mike is. Then it doesn't matter, right? It's going to happen no matter what you think. And if you're
Right.
following the rules, then you're all set, right? So, I mean, I don't really understand why there would be concern or worry. But, I don't know if there's a bigger group of doom and gloomers than with Christians, though. They do love their doom and gloom. And this is nothing new. They've been doing this for a very long time.
Well, the reason why it's doom and gloom is because they're not following the direction, which is why they feel it more acute, I believe.
Maybe. That's okay, though. Well, to each his own. It takes all
Yeah,
kinds to make the world go around, right? Comic Book Bob asks an actual legitimate question. He says,
sure.
Chester, which superhero gaming system do you prefer? Do you prefer? I'm using Mutants and Masterminds, but I've used other systems in the past. Well, dude, I've used all of them. And excuse me, wow, I think I got a little bit of a cold coming on. But oh well. I've used them all too, dude. And I do like Mutants and Masterminds. I think it's fun. I really enjoy all the books and the ideas and things they've done. I think their Freedom City book that came out, I think it was first edition, or I think it was the first edition. Really wonderful book, just beautifully laid out, full of information. So I think the people over there at Green Ronin Press have done a really really good job with that system. And of course, the later updating is interesting. They became more specific, I guess, but I didn't love them as much as I did the first edition. But I do like Mutants and Masterminds. But basically, what that is a D20 system, right? George, mute yourself, dude. So it's just another D20 system, right? That's fine. And I've done, the hero system with, the Steve Jackson system. There's a whole bunch of them, right? But really, to be fair, the reason why I was showing you the Marvel superhero role playing game was because I like that system. I think that's the best. It runs so smoothly. We demonstrated here for a couple of shows, and it just works. It just works, and it works really well for superheroes. Now, I don't know if you could take the Marvel system and use it for just normal characters, but I don't think it would be a very smooth idea. But for superheroes, the super powered characters, I think it works wonderfully. I do have the brand new wearing the cape system, which is coming out of Mark Harmon. And I do have that complete system here. I got the beautiful hard books he put out from that Kickstarter. It took him forever to get. Talk about waiting, because a lot of people are kind of getting angsty waiting on Ethan. And of course, we finally did get Mike's, and except, well, that whole conversation, right? But I took 2 years to get those books, dude. 2 years, right? And that was more than a year late. So I mean, those things do happen. But that's a pretty good system. But another system I really liked, and I think we talked about it a little bit, Comic Book Bob, was Margaret Weiss's system. She came out with a system before. Disney bought Marvel, and it was a little bit confusing to people at first because I think people weren't getting it, and even myself, who's extremely experienced with role playing games, I had to read it twice. And then once I got it, I got it. And I was like, "Oh wow, this is clever." And unfortunately, when it came out, she didn't put any kind of she should put some videos together or something like that. I think it would have been easier for people to get. But once you got it though, it was a beautiful system, a really good system. And then of course, Disney bought Marvel and shut everything down. So they absolutely killed that thing. But I did like what Margaret Weiss was doing with her core. I think she calls it core, the core system. I did like it. Did you ever try that, Denali?
No, I haven't had a chance to.
Yeah, beautiful production too. I think
Mm.
those books she put out might be the most beautiful role playing books I've ever seen. Just stunning stuff. But then again, Margaret Weiss, she's awesome. you know, I mean, she's done so many awesome stuff. I got her Dragonlance books from the past, and the role playing ones too. Just gorgeous books. She's really good at production value.
Well, she has the experience to do it.
She does. She does. And like like we had mentioned before with her, I mean, she's very important. I mean, when we talk about tabletop role playing, you have to talk about Gary Gygax, Dave Arnson. You got to talk about Margaret Weiss. You got to talk about Salvatore, right? You got to talk about oh, his name just totally left me. Who's the Forgotten Realms guy? Elmister. Oh my goodness, I can't
Ed
believe it.
Green.
Ed Greenwood, yeah,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
you can't have to mention his name. And then another person whose name you have to mention is absolutely not on the tip of my tongue. But we're going to talk about him because we're going to talk about his creation. So, Denali, do me a favor and figure out the name of the creator of Vampire the Masquerade, please.
You mean Hagen?
That's probably why I can't remember it because it's some weird Eastern European name.
Mark. Um, that's funny.
Yeah.
Which he actually created the world of darkness first, and then vampire.
Right. Yeah. No,
Um,
sure. It all came out through White Wolf. I think we initially were seeing it in White Wolf magazine, which is unrelated at the time, and of course it became related.
yeah,
But
yeah. It was the fan. It was a fan magazine, but they combined to become the White Wolf Publishing.
that's right, and it was cool. It was a cool magazine as well. I do believe I recall back in the '80s there was another magazine called
Mhm.
White Lion, actually, that did some kind of role playing. It was like a role playing magazine. Pretty sure it was called White Lion. But White Wolf, of
Right.
course, became something big and important. And
Mark
Rain Hagen,
Ryan
thank you very much,
Hagen.
Comic Book Bob. Yeah, it's a
Right.
weird
Yeah.
name. Yeah, yeah. But that dude actually it's dudes.
Hmm.
There's a few of them involved. One guy, but those dudes are very very important as well. So for tabletop role playing, there are some names that should never be forgotten, and that's kind of a short list of them. Mark or Matt, yeah. But yeah, it's a hard name to remember, but he's important, dude, because when we talk about gaming systems, right, role-playing systems, of course, the D20, what became the D20 system, of course, started simply as polygonal dice system. Um, but that is extremely influential, of course, with D&D, right? And and they were very clever, I think, when they came out with the third edition and they put the OGL, or the Open Gaming License, on top of it. It's just very clever. They're saying, "Hey, you can use our system. Just make sure you put it in your book. This, and this. No big deal." And it just exploded. I mean, that's where Green Ronin Press came from, right? Just like Mongoose Press and some of the other really cool ones. And of course, Green Ronin eventually turned into doing Mutants and Masterminds, which was, and they also did some other very popular stuff. I think Blue Lotus is something else they did, and of course you have the Lackmere people, etc., etc.
Hmm.
So that OGL was extremely clever, and of course their fifth edition they do have a version of the OGL still. So I really think that was clever on D&D's part. And but so Comic Book Box says, "My friends love the World of Darkness system. I don't care for it. The mythology is great. I just don't care for the political aspect. Werewolf is better though." Well, see, that's the cool thing about the World of Darkness, actually. The system. which we're going to talk about that a little bit today. The system is very different, right? Because I mentioned the D20 system, and I mentioned this chart column system that we did for Marvel's superhero role playing game, and of course you have the GURP system, et cetera, et cetera. But the system that they created for Vampire the Masquerade is very different, and it works so smoothly. I actually think my favorite game of that system is Aberrant, and Aberrant, of course, is a hard, gritty, dark, realistic superhero campaigning system, but it uses that White Wolf system. But now White Wolf itself, or the World of Darkness, it allows you to do anything you want. You want to do something more political, more tragic, you have Vampire the Masquerade. Werewolf is more visceral, maybe even more D&D like. It's more straightforward. You also have Mage the Ascension. You got Changeling. You had Wraith. You had Mummy as well. There was all these different, very very different things you could do. So it was extremely clever. I was telling Denali here, I got 3+ shelves in my library completely full of vampire books. I mean, that's how much content they put out, right? Aberrant is pretty fun, a pretty fun comic book, Bob. I loved it. It's great mythology, and of course he mentions the mythology or the cosmology, and it is absolutely stellar. I do think that the cosmology of the original White Wolf's system is the best I've seen of any game ever. I mean, it's just stunning. This Rain Hagen guy, he he and his team killed it. They killed it, killed it. I mean, I know you agree, Denali.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Now, George, I'm
man.
assuming you know nothing about Vampire.
Oh, I know there are a bunch of suckers for
Okay,
anything.
that's what I thought. All right, but yeah. So let's take a little bit of time. We were going to do our thing today, George, but you guys are late, or of course Beowulf hadn't showed up, so we kind of just shifted gears. And we're going to be talking about vampires. So let me come over here real quick and let me bring this up. All right, and I'll come over here and share with you guys. So what we're going to do today, we're going to change ourselves over, and we're going to talk about this a little bit. Let me see here. This should be fine. Yes, yes, you guys should be able to see
All
now.
right.
All right, cool.
Woohoo.
Uh,
Yep.
woohoo, yes. Now, this is a good thing to talk about because we do plan on what we're going to do is I kind of wanted to finish this God's blood thing, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to because I can't get people to show up and do it. So it is what it is. That's the problem with role playing is getting a tight team that's going to come and be there and do it. Right? I've never had this trouble before, but it seems here on the internet it's trouble. But nevertheless, whatever happens with God's blood, I think it was really cool what we were doing. But whatever happens with it, we are going to go to get in and talk to you about a few other things. We'll have a kind of a break, but when we come back from that break of whatever we do here on Bugbear's Basement, we are going to come back and we're going to do a Vampire the Masquerade game. And what we're doing is we're recruiting right now. If you go to our Fanspeak page on Facebook, which that link is just down below, we have an announcement at the top of the page for looking for players. We want to get a nice tight team. I would say it would be nice to have 3 or 4 players, but we need people who are going to be consistent, who are going to be here, and people who have experience. Do you have to have experience, particularly with Vampire itself? No, it would be preferable though. But we want role players, real role players, because we've done. I've been involved with 2 online gaming system games right now. I have John Dillard's system, but that's an introduction to D&D is what it is. I'm explaining how the system works. How is the 5th edition different? I'm introducing role playing and D&D particularly in that show. Here with the Marvel one, we were simply demonstrating a system itself. But with Vampire, we want to do a full-on role-playing game experience. We want some good players. So if that is you, and you can be here every week, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a couple hours, then we want you to come over and be part of our team because we are going to do this Vampire the Masquerade thing, and it is really awesome, particularly from a storytelling point of view. When I do the D&D thing on the other side, Denali, with
Mm.
with John Dillard, there's a lot of prep that needs to be done from his point of view as well. We have to prepare maps. We have to have, because it's very linearly tight movement. We have to have, there's a whole bunch of prep that needs to be done for that show, which is fun on our part too. I mean, I was telling Denali here that in my decades of doing DMing, I have made some crazy stuff just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
And but the cool thing about Vampire, I think, even more so than the Marvel system we were doing here with God's Blood, is it is perfect for this medium of sitting here in front of you guys and chatting on this radio show, because this is what this is. YouTube is radio, right? And it's cool. I didn't really feel know that before, but I get it now. But Vampire is perfect because taking the storybook element that I was using from God's Blood and just telling the story through a story picture book type of way for Vampire is absolutely perfect, right? Because Vampire doesn't have any maps at all. That's not how the system works. This is a storytelling system, and it's very, very heavy in that. But before I get a little bit deeper into it, I think let's get some commentary here from Denali.
All right. W- I guess what we're going to be doing is going to be doing the fifth edition Vampire the Masquerade. You're going to say, well, wait, then there was three editions beforehand. Where did the four and where's the fourth one? For those who don't know, well, the third one was, I think, was the revised one because it was the first edition, second edition, the revised
The third was
edition.
Requiem, I'm pretty sure, right?
No, they don't count that. That's a separate line because it's with the Chronicle. It
Oh,
used to be
really?
the New
Okay.
World Darkness, but it's now the Chronicle of Darkness. So it's a separate system altogether. And now it plays separate because it's Requiem second edition, and they revamped the rules. Which you might be interested in that one as well. So I could send you that
Oh, you talk
version
about
as
the
well.
D20 version.
No, no, no. They did a D20, but they also revamped some of the rules in there to be
Huh.
more character and story driven than dice rolling driven, which you might be interested in as well. So I'll send you that. But for this one, um, they did the D20, which is the 20th anniversary edition, and then the fifth edition um, that we have on the screen right now. Um, and they did some changes to the system as well, where they're introducing hunger at this time, where instead of using a blood pool and you use your blood pool as to activate your disciplines or do any supernatural stuff, you rouse check. And if you pass the rouse check, you don't get hungry. If you fail it, you get hungrier. And if you get to a certain point, you start frenzy because your character is starving for blood. So it's always there with you every time you use the thing, or a
Yeah,
constant reminder.
and I do like that Hunger System edition. I think it's good.
Yeah,
But there's not actually a lot of shifting beyond that. The system
right,
is not updated. Now, with this fifth edition that we're talking about right here, though,
right.
the one that's on the
Mhm.
screen, it's ugly. It's horrible. It really is. I mean, and I don't understand this because, for years we've been seeing tabletop companies try this from time to time in the board gaming world too, right? I actually think I've seen more
Right.
of it in board gaming than actual tabletop. But every now and then you get some artsy jerk that says, "I'm going to use photography." Well, if you think of it offhand, you'd be like, "Oh, okay, that's cool. That should be fine." But it's not. Photography, when it comes to board game, tabletop gaming, it just doesn't work. You need art. I can't. I'm not going to sit and try to understand it. It just is what it is. Photography sucks when you're doing a board game or something like that. It doesn't work. You need actual art. And to be fair, over the years, the vampire art goes from really bad to okay, but it was done in such a gothic style that it kind of works for you overall. And now with this amazing amount of artists you can get a hold of these days, I mean, we all know that. We see the things we do here on the show, and the other people in this community do. There's no excuse, right? But they went and got
Right.
this crazy, insane lady who has all, she's a super artist and she knows she's artistic. And I mean, I've seen her speak. So it's just that annoying California. artsy, better than you type of thinking person. It is, right? And
Right.
Tim Bradstreet's art was perfect. You're right, Comic Book Bob. But in this book, what they've done is they have gone with the photo art, and it's just dumb. It doesn't look right. It doesn't hold your attention. It feels awkward and off. Now,
It doesn't know if it wants to be a one of those fashion magazines that is in the studio or whatever, or it wants to actually be a a game book,
okay,
and that's where it kind of fails.
so this is not annotated. Okay. But that would be easier. But let me. I just want to get to a piece of art so I can show you real quick. Now you notice I'm running through a story here, and this is kind of the cool thing they did with this. In the books, they would introduce a lot of concepts through stories. I mean, actually, because this is a storytelling system, that's what they call it, and that's very different. We didn't see a lot of that from before. So we do get a lot of these kind of like little stories that are just laying out the field. Like here you go, boom, perfect, right? Ooh, it's artistic photography. No, 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 bad. Because this book is ugly. It's ugly. I would not spend a penny on this book. And then on top of, because we've been waiting for the fifth edition for quite a while. This was a huge gap between this and that whole Requiem nonsense they did. And for me, Requiem, and whatever the other names of the other werewolf and stuff were called, but those things where I hated them. And it's for me, it's very much like fourth edition with D&D, right? Because we had third edition was pretty cool. Then they did the 3.5 update, and they said, "Oh, we're just going to put a couple updated books out." And no, they didn't. They put out just a massive ton of books. They lied to us, and then they stopped that for some reason, and they went to fourth edition, which was had nothing to do with D&D. It just absolutely screwed the pooch, right? And they almost killed WotC, right? That's how bad it was. But of
Mhm.
course, they've come back with fifth edition. And they've taken the throne back with the fifth edition. So good for that. But absolute ridiculous. And for me, Requiem did almost the same thing for Vampire. It about killed it, right? And during that death throw of that Requiem section, we had the Mind's Eye Theater people who are LARPers, and we
Oh,
don't we
oh,
yes
no,
exactly
no, no, no,
painful.
no.
Those guys took over Vampire, right? And now that we have
Yeah.
fifth edition, this book not only is ugly, it is toxic SJW nonsense. All right. It's really bad. So therefore,
Right.
burn this book. Don't buy this book. Have nothing to do with this book. Now, there's one rule I like. I do, and Denali already mentioned it. And the hunger rule, I think, improves upon the blood rule that they had before. It's better because in game, the blood thing could, with the original system, it could cause you a little bit of trouble, but. From a gamer, as a gamer, you're always micromanaging and managing your character, and so it's very easy to manage blood. It wasn't stressful, right? But this hunger thing, it's the danger and troubles of being a vampire are going to be on your mind, and it's going to influence your decisions. And I think that's a good improvement. But other than that, this is a nonsense book.
Right. Which is kind of there was a whole controversy, and it people got easily triggered, and this is a mature book for mature
Yep,
audience. If you can't deal with it, then the book isn't for you. You know,
that's right.
don't be outraged for outrage's sake.
Yeah, but look at this
You know,
horrible art. It's not
I
even.
don't I don't, but I had to see it so many times.
Yeah, no,
I prefer
it's not even the fact that it's photography. That in itself is troublesome. But it's also look at it. It's trying so hard to be avant-garde and artsy. It's
that's
trying
that
so desperately.
that's the problem. That's the main problem for this style. They want to be over stylistic that they went beyond it. They went into plaid, you know, using the spaceball term. You
Yeah.
know, instead of just going to hyperspace, it just went to plaid, and it's
Yeah.
now they're going to crash right into the console
No,
because
exactly.
uh,
And look at the mixed media that they're putting in. We have this horrible, ugly photography, and then we have this art stuff here on the side, and it's like, no, that
Right.
doesn't go together. It doesn't work together, actually.
Yeah.
So it's just a horrendously ugly book. It's really ugly, and that's too bad because I think I've always enjoyed how the White Wolf books have presented themselves artistically, anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then there's like flashes of good art in there,
Of course, there
which
will
kind of,
be.
I mean, let me see if I can just,
Yeah, see, because I don't see any annotation, or
yeah,
otherwise I'd just be going through that. But
yeah.
it doesn't matter. Like, here's a piece of colored
Here's a, well,
photography,
well,
maybe.
well this is a problem with a lot of White Wolf in, is that their PDF aren't that really good. So it takes like several revisions before it actually becomes good. So don't, if you're gonna get I'm gonna get a PDF and go through the bookmark. The bookmarks are not that good as well, and they had
Yeah.
to revise it. So I have to shake my head.
Well,
Don't don't buy
another thing I noticed about this book in particular. Look at
it.
this. Look
Mm-hmm.
at. Oh God, it's just nonsense. But
Oh yeah,
another thing I
I,
noticed about this book is kind of interesting, Denali. In the
mm-hmm.
original books, the art was it could be disturbing, but and understand that we're talking about vampire here. This is a disturbing game. It's about this ugliness, this evil thing, and you can play different games with it. You can play a game, an arc of redemption. You can do all kind of stuff, right? But it is a dark game for sure. But what they did in the original thing, which came into the storytelling, the art and
Mm-hmm.
the style gave a feeling of the macabre, but that's about it. They didn't have to really go with shocking nudity or guts being ripped out. They didn't have to do that. It was very subtle. And in the storytelling is where the foreboding would come. And of course, that is really good storytelling. This is cheap thrills. This is jump scares, is in this book, right? And
Not even
it's,
jump scare. It doesn't even scare me at all.
but you know what I
I'm
mean.
looking.
It's
Yeah,
it's it's
it's
weak.
cringy.
It's
It's
cringy. Yeah.
cringy. Yeah. So being like, oh, this is awesome. It's like, oh, this is like, one of those B-rated horror movies that's not really good.
Mhm.
You know, trying to be like the best, and then it ended up being like Twilight. And then you were like, did I just spend an hour just watching a Twilight ripoff?
Yeah,
And
right. That's exactly what you did. Bullet
yeah,
says, hobby grade outrage. Yeah, not outrage, dude. I mean, they do whatever they want. But
yeah,
I think it's unfortunate where what has happened to it, and I blame Requiem because Requiem put him in a position for this to happen to him. Actually, it's what happened. But anyway, I'm not going to keep going through this damn book because
yeah.
this book sucks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to show the old stuff. Ooh, Vampire the Masquerade. Let's just keep it simpler. All right. Yes, I'm in Japan. Thank you. All right. So, oh, and they show me the Bloodlines game. Thank you. Um, why? Let's do second edition.
Do, do,
Here we go.
do.
All right. So, if we look through here, this is the old book. It's very subtle. It's nice, right? And it is a photography. Interesting. But it's a subtle touch, right? This right here is a really good book. I didn't really care much for the campaign type of books like Chicago or Boston or Montreal. This one here's in Montreal right here.
Here, here, just share my screen.
Oh, share your screen. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
All right, let me come over and do that. Come back over the Hangouts and do that. All right.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Oh, you showing interiors. Okay.
Yeah. Which you're
Yes,
probably
comic book Bob. I did see the announcement for Bloodlines 2, which is pretty exciting, and Thunder and I had quite a long conversation about it. But the problem is they are proudly proclaiming that Bloodlines will be very much woke and SJW woke because and they're proudly so. this wasn't a subtle thing or something that we're reading between the lines. They were openly saying they were going to make things right for the lesbian and the diversity community who've been so oppressed by everybody because the white supremacists and Nazis. They said this crap. Straight up. Now, Thundero thinks that that's more just politic, and he doesn't think the game itself will be actually that polluted. I don't agree with him. I think it's going to be an absolute SJW cluster. I think so. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll kind of tell when they actually show gameplay of that game, because when they show that trailer, that's just us concepts. It
Right.
wasn't any gameplay, anything. It was like, hey guys, we're actually doing it, and we don't have anything, so we'll give you this awesome trailer that's not gameplay, so we don't even know what their gameplay is going to look like, or how the game is going to run. So oh, by the way, this will come next year, first quarter of 2020. So, which we know when they say that it's not going to come 2020. I expect a delay.
So do I.
Or
So do I. So do I.
yeah,
Yeah.
all right.
Well, anyway, let me come back over. He's showing interior, but let me come over and show you some of these covers here, because I want to talk about what the system is and what they're doing here. Now, in Vampire, the general concept that they came up with, actually brilliant concept they came up with, is this: the original vampire was Cain, as in Cain and Abel. So the mark of Cain is vampirism, right? That in itself is clever, right? But the story they built, I mean, story that they built off of that is absolutely fantastic. It's not only probably the best campaign stories that we have in any tabletop role playing game. I think it's comparable with any of the big, movie and TV franchise stuff like Harry Potter,
Mhm.
right? It is absolutely brilliant, the storytelling, and there's a lot of great books. It's just really, really clever. And if you're interested in some good old gothic vampire stories, just go pick up some of the old vampire novels. I mean, they're really well done. But the idea is that Cain created the first generation, which I believe there were the three that he changed, and to
Well,
have companionship. Of
right.
course, and this. Yeah, go
He's
ahead.
the first generation. He's the first
Well,
generation,
he is the first,
and
yeah,
then yeah, and then his three childers are the second
generation.
generation, which is
Now,
the yeah.
what
Go
they're
ahead.
doing here, as you'll see, in that second generation second generation created a third edition or generation, which was 12, technically I think 13. But that 12 generation is where we're getting all our clans from, right? That third generation, the 12 clans. Now, of course, you
Right.
might recognize this if you've done any kind of historical studies, understanding the 1, the 3, the 12. This is a pretty standard thing throughout every culture in the world when it comes to God numbers and stuff. But they followed that kind of trope, and that's fine. But from those 12 third generation vampires, I think they called them the Methuselah, right?
13, yeah, the Methuselahs.
Well, it's technically 13. Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But that there's basically 12. But from
Hmm.
those 12, we get our clans, right?
Right.
Now, our clans are in current gaming, or at least in the old system, the current blood is about 12th generation. So meaning that not necessarily you're that old, but that your blood, when you're created as a vampire, is 12. We're up to the 12th generations away. So if Cain was first, then the second, then the Methuselah being the third. Actually, they're not called Methuselah; they're called something else. Antediluvians, I think. But
I thought Antediluvians were the second ones.
maybe I got to go brush up before we do the game anyway, just because it's been a while, been a long time since a
Yeah.
couple decades since I played the game. But I'll go and brush up on that. But it doesn't matter. But it's up to 12th generation, and the 13th generation is actually showing up, and and their blood is so thin. They're called caitiffs. They're not as powerful as a normal vampire. And in this game system,
No,
the older your
no,
blood, meaning the closer you are to Cain, the stronger you are. Right?
no. It's cative are vampires that don't know who they are, so they can possess any discipline without. They're basically abandoned. You're thinking of the Thin Bloods,
Now, Thin Bloods
which
is
is
this is a new thing from the later updates though.
No, it came from the second onward,
Did
I
it?
believe.
Okay.
Yeah,
But that's fine.
but
We
but
have
now
this
they're
thin blood generation. That's true.
yeah,
Um,
and now the fifth generation has, or the fifth edition has, it's now a playable character. So if you wanted to do a story about them bloods, you could do that as well.
yeah, but they
Before
moved
you
it
could
up
have.
to like the 14th generation in that.
Right. So from 13 to up, you're basically thin bloods.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now these from these clans we have the Assamite. These are more Middle Easterners. They're more they're kind of like assassins in the way, which kind of stick to the name, but they are more from the Middle East. We have the
Hmm.
Ravenos here. The Ravenos are kind of like gypsies, really, and they have very close
Yeah.
relationships with werewolves and things like that. The Tsamitsi are crazy vampire wizards, and they're very troublesome.
Hmm.
Let me see what else we got here. Here we go. We have Malkavians. These names are all the names of that third generation. The clans are coming from them. But the
Right.
Malkavians are insane, crazy people. The Bruja are kind of the standard troublesome. Radical punk type of warrior types. They're warrior types. Let's see. We should have all the clans laid out here. Why don't we? I did a search for clans. Does this have them all here? Okay, they do. All right. So we have the Tremere. The Tremere are the blue bloods. Okay.
Right.
Uh,
The magicians who deoperalize a vampire through a ritual and got cursed as vampires.
yeah, that's true. But they're also kind of the royalty. We have
No, that's Ventru.
Oh, that's right. That is the Ventru. You're right. That's right.
Hmm.
The Ventru are the royalty. The Toreador are the artists. The Gangrel, the Gangrel are the ones that are closest to werewolves. I do apologize. They're more wild,
Right.
more werewolf-like. The Nosferatu are extremely ugly. They kind of look like
Yeah.
Nosferatu, but they're also really good at communications. We have the La Sombra, which are very dark, very twisted, extremely twisted. We have the
Right.
Giovanni, which operate like a mafia. Of course, I saw used a
And
few
they're
names.
necromancers.
They are necromancers, and you have the followers of
Yeah.
Set, which of course are Egyptian based. So these
Right.
are the clans. So how many we got here? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, right? And that's counting the cative, right? So 1, 2,
Right.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 4. No, it is not counting the cative. So it has the 13. But then again, the which one of these was thought lost, were reemerged? I think it might have been the Assamite actually. Um, but um,
Mm,
but anyways, you
uh,
get those 13, and then of course another
yeah.
kind of like the bad guy for the bad guys because you're playing a vampire. So I mean, even if
Right.
you're trying to play a good vampire,
So
you're a vampire, right?
yeah.
So
So Lasambra and the Dasamite are the part of the Sabbat right there.
yeah. Now, and that's the Sabbat. Now, the
Yeah.
Sabbat are the bad guys for the bad guys, right? And they're evil. They think vampires should. They're kind of like Magneto. Their vampires are more powerful. They should rule the world. And the Sabbat, a lot of people enjoy interacting with the Sabbat. Now, to be fair, I ran Vampire the Masquerade for years and years and years. Ran campaigns for it, and it's actually good we're having this conversation because I'm kind of brushing up on it because I'm really rusty. But I never used the Sabbat ever. I never had them in a campaign ever. But some people love the Sabbat. It is what it is. But I never went that direction. I always sticking with the politic and historical thing. And it's right on my alley, right? Because you guys know I love history and stuff, and I have a little bit of involvement with the anthropological world. Playing vampire when you're dealing with very old things, you can deal with historical points in history, little obscure things, and you can take that obscure point and make it something cool, right? Uh, like
Right.
um, uh, I'm just going to give a little hint to the game that we're going to be playing. There will be some kind of involvement to the War of the Roses. Now, how many people know what the War of the Roses are here that are listening with us? Anybody? No.
the
There might be
Game of
some in the
Thrones.
chat.
Yeah.
But the thing
Yeah.
is, you can take those cool little historical moments and twist them and use it. which you can't do as easy with other systems, right? That's the really thing I
Yeah.
loved about Vampire. And
So
yeah,
yeah, so comic book Bob saying the original 12s were called the antediluvians,
yeah,
and
yeah, I
the
thought so.
kind of are cleanseless. Um, Let me see. Roger said in the '90s, wasn't there a TV show based on this?
There
Yes,
was.
Vampire: The Embrace.
That's right. There was, and it was
Lasted
not good.
last Yeah, lasted 8 episodes, only because the main character died in a car crash,
Oh,
unfortunately.
really? Oh, that's sad. But it wasn't very
Hmm.
good. But who knows? They could have worked it up. But I think it's unfortunate that it didn't last, and I could see what the showrunners were thinking because this story is absolutely killer, and you could do a really really cool show if you paid attention. But it's going to be tough. You have to have someone who truly loves it, because otherwise you're just going to be typical Hollywood, and would they know better, and they're going to create their own weird twisted awful thing. Nick
Right.
says yes, Chester, we know. We are we are nerds here. Yeah, no, I know some of you would, but a lot of people wouldn't, right? But just little teeny things, you can do with that. That Vampire is really cool for that kind of storytelling.
Yeah. So that's why I like the game system. It's a collaborative game story. Even if you're playing
It
your
is.
character, you're still telling the story, what your character would do and interact with the other characters.
That is
So
true. Now, that's a very good point, actually, because with D&D, for instance, you can do your best as a DM to not be linear. I mean, you can try hard. It's hard though. You really have to become very experienced as a DM to be able to have a system, have a campaign that's not linear. It's very hard. But with Vampire, it's very easy for it to be a truly collaborative effort between all the players. It's designed that way, right? So I have an idea of the world that is going on around them, but their characters are going to be really shaping what is happening a lot, and a lot of that has to do with the power level. And you could do that a little bit with Marvel, but this example I was running with the at least the first two acts we got through it was simply more linear because we're doing a radio show, so we wanted to be more consistent. But this Vampire lends itself very much to that. The reason is because each character is powerful, right? They are a vampire, and that brings its own, because they are a political force unto themselves, right? Not just a physical one. But Vampire is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I understand that for some people, Vampire is not their thing. Because it's dark, it's brooding, it's dealing with blood, it's dealing with, in some cases, sexual deviancy. Although you don't have to touch on that as a storyteller, but it is harsh. It is vampire, and for some people, that's just too much. They're not interested in getting into that. And of course, when we start running the vampire campaign here, and whenever we start that, I will put a warning up in the beginning of the show, because this is not for everybody, and I get that. But if you're able to get past that dark, macabre, uh, you know, evil feeling, because they're vampires, it needs to be evil, and you can find some real enjoyment here as a role player. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, you can make it. It really depends on the campaign you're running and how the players act. It could be really funny. It could be exciting. And then suddenly you get those tragic moments. And I think that the system works with that, where one moment you could be laughing and bonding, the next moment you're frenzying and you're causing a huge breach, and your character have to deal with the consequences of those actions.
that's right. Yeah.
So,
Because as a vampire, you can do whatever you want to do, but you do have to deal with the consequences. And the system goes even deeper. So let's get into that. Now, the
right.
system itself, if I come up here and look at a character sheet, I saw one right here. Here's a Bruja sheet. Let me see if I bring this up full screen. All right. Now, this sheet right here, if you take a look at it, this is very standard for the
Mhm.
White Wolf system for whatever game, whether it be Trinity or Aberrant or Vampire, Werewolf, whatever. They use this system, and basically what you get is it's very cool. What happens is you start out here, if you look where my cursor is, we have attributes. Right now, we know
Mhm.
with D&D you got strength and dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Right. Well,
Mhm.
it's very similar, but they have 9 of them. Okay. And what happens is when you're making your character, you make a decision on which one is going to be most important. Now, this can be focused on based on your clan or all kind of things, but you're going to basically decide which one is first and which one is second, and of course third. So we have physical, social, and mental, and each one of them have 3. So say you decide, well, I want a powerhouse, strong fighting character, so you would go with physical, right? And you're going to get a large number of points, and you just fill in these little dots, right? And there's limits in the beginning, but you fill those little dots in, and then your second one is going to be less amount of dots, and the third one would be even less. I think it's 3. But then you come down to the abilities. You do the same thing. Which is most important to you? Talents, skills, or knowledges? And you get a certain amount of points for each one, and they descend right from first to third. And then advantages, disciplines are basically the powers of the vampires. Backgrounds are just what they say, but they could be any kind of thing. This is wealth or companions or all kind of things. It's very cool the way they work backgrounds in this. And then you have your virtues, and this virtues here, working with your blood pool. These are the things they use to try to make it feel vampire-y. But in the new system, they added the hunger, which does it much better. And then, of course, you have your humanity. And if your humanity falls beyond, I forget what it is, but when it falls beyond a certain point, you lose your
Mhm.
character, right?
1. Your last humanity is 1. When you go humanity 0, you're just a beast, mindless beast.
Yeah, yeah, but actually think you, as a DM, you had the option of doing even less than that, but more than that. But nevertheless, so you have to keep your humanity up, and the more vicious and barbaric acts you do, you'll lose humanity points, of course. So you have to balance your character because otherwise, you could literally play yourself out of the game and have to make a new character,
Yep.
right?
Right.
Willpower is used for using disciplines and things like that. Of course, your blood pool is representing. You have to activate blood in order to use your abilities often, or what have you. Also, your health over here is split into normal wounds and lethal wounds. Now, things for a vampire and say for a werewolf, for instance, silver is automatically lethal, etc., etc. A werewolf's claws are automatically lethal to everything, et cetera, et cetera. But it's a very tight little system. It's a cool little dot system, and it progresses fast enough.
Mhm.
Not as fast as say D&D does. I mean, you can level up a 10 level character in what, t- 12 sessions maybe, right?
Right.
12 to 14 sessions, easy. But in Vampire is slower, but it still progresses quick enough that you can feel your character progressing and becoming more and more powerful. But it's a really tight and really good system. I like it a lot.
So just to show some changes to the 5th edition, because his
Mm.
character sheets does show some of the changes based on here's the Bruja and here's your Bruja. So if you change
Yes.
to mine, it's showing. Yeah. The same thing. You have 5 dots compared to the other one, which you had like about 6
All
or
right.
7 dots
Yeah.
more.
Let me just switch over to you real quick. I'll just do that.
Right. Right.
All right. Let me
So
come over here. All right. Here we go.
yeah. So from the very beginning, they've taken personality traits. So they talked about ambition. What's your um, long term goal that your character wants to do during the chronicle, or overarching goal throughout the
Um.
chronicle?
Yeah.
Desire.
You
Yeah.
keep talking. I have to go answer the door.
Sure. You have desire, which is your short term, which will be important because every time you fulfill your desire, you will gain willpower points, which is kind of working a little bit different in the 5th generations. You got the same titles and all that predator types, which is kind of like a new predator type. In this 5th edition version is how your character prefers to hunt. Like, does he like to, you know, ambush them? Do they like to dominate them? So there's different prayer types that's in the books that you'll have to choose. And then when I was talking about attributes, where he was pointing all that out, it actually tells you a system where you choose one attribute at 4 dots, three attributes at 3 dots, and then the rest, and then one attribute at 1 dots, and then everything else is 2 dots. So they changed the method of how you can distribute the points here. Same things here. They tell you now you don't have to choose one other. They're all skills, and you kind of choose where you want your dots to go based on what the character creation tasks are. Another thing that they added on, and I guess it could be interesting, is the chronicle tenets. So basically, these are what the coterie, what the group decides to say. I will not harm. We won't harm the innocents. We won't um, reveal secrets to others. Kind of like example, and if we break those tenets, then we get slashes or strains to our humanity, which we'll have to roll, because if we fail it, that will hurt our humanity and lower it. New additions that they had is touchstones and convictions, which came from the Requiem second edition, for those who have played or haven't played. That basically these are the connection to your humanity that will bolster up your humanity, making sure that if you have a stain, these will help you kind of alleviate, give you bonuses for not dropping your humanities and becoming plot points and deeper connections where you have to worry about your touchstones or your convictions, where you say you're a gangster protecting his dying mom, and and the storyteller could put that NPC, that's touchstone, in danger. What do? Do you protect your mom? Do you let your mom die and all that stuff? Conviction, a principle, like if you're break your principle, that's sustained because you lose a little bit of yourself on that. And then the clan banes, like all the bloodline has their own uh, weakness, like a character class weakness that you put in there as well. And then here you put your disciples. Another point that they're added on is actually blood potency, which is not connected to generations. Or it is, but it isn't, where you can grow your blood potency despite of your generation up to a certain point. And then Renaissance, which is basically the blood. There's a emotion that powers up your discipline more. So, like, say you want bonuses on animalism or on present or dominate, you would find the blood that would help fuel that. Do you have any questions, George, or anything?
I would assume George would have many questions. I'm back, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
I
Um,
have, yeah, I do have a lot of questions, but right now I'm just sucking it all in.
right. Comic Book
No,
Bob said, "What time on Tuesday are you guys planning to start?"
8 p.m.
So we're
Eastern Standard Time.
8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time till maybe 11 p.m. Eastern, so no later than that.
Yeah, no later than
Um,
that. We're going to keep them tight. But
yeah,
yeah, no, Comic Book Bob, you're welcome to come in. We need role players. Like I said, from the other two ones that we've been doing, I want to do something very different on this vampire. I want role players. I want people to see people who know what they're doing, flowing and running, so you can get a good look at what a real campaign looks like. You know what I mean?
right. So there are some subtle differences compared
They're subtle
to,
though. Yeah.
yeah.
The clan
So
bane thing is kind of interesting.
yeah. So now, because the clan bane comes in in play when you hit a certain, when you're rolling dices now, if you do a messy critical or you make a 1, your clan vate could, your as an ST you can put a compulsion, which is your clan bane,
Yeah.
and that could be like for a Malkavian delusion. basically he'll be paranoid for throughout the rest of the scene, or until he fulfills that compulsion that you set out for him to
Yeah.
do.
And Eagle 43, we are talking about Vampire the Masquerade. Now, we
Mhm.
talked a little bit about a fifth edition, but the fifth edition is kind of nonsense, unfortunately. But there are a couple little rules, particularly hunger, in there that we're going to apply to our game that we're going to play.
Right.
But yeah. So I do like those additions. They're basically making it more difficult to be a vampire, as it should. You should have challenges. And in the old system, it was just too easy to manage it. So I do improve. I do approve highly of these shifts. And what it seems is, if you go and you watch the interviews for fifth edition, right?
Mhm.
That were going on for a couple of years now. Um, and you look at those interviews, you look at those conventions, lectures, and things like that. What you have is the core dudes who create the books. They are just nerd role players like us. But the problem is the SJWs took over the LARPing, the mind's eye theater aspect of Vampire, and they are causing a lot of trouble. So they have to, or at least they feel they have to cater to that group, but at the same time, they are in the bottom. The underlying rule systems and mechanics and things like that are pure, good old fashioned vampire, and these the cool dudes who are behind it. But the upper layer of it is unfortunately just littered with this progressive, silly politics. And actually, they used the Gentleman Gamer. You guys ever watch his YouTube channel, the Gentleman Gamer?
Right.
He does a lot of
Yes.
tabletop role playing stuff. Well, they actually used him as an actor to introduce the clans and histories and stuff like that for this fluff that they put into the fifth edition, or just in Vampire in general. He did a really good job too. Did you see those videos, Denali?
Yeah, they were really good.
Yeah,
Introduction for those who are not familiar
yeah.
with the game. And what's great about this again is we can ignore the fluff. The fluff is
Oh
really
yeah,
for those storytellers who don't know what to do. These are to help you shape a story, but you're not beholden to whatever happens. And I think that's been something that a lot of people towards the beginning kind of lost sight. It's like you have the magic rule, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to be beholden to what the lore or whatever it says. It's your story, which is one of the reasons why they stopped it and they try to go with the Requiem, is that they wanted to kind of say, hey, craft your own story. You're not beholden to what we said.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I get that, but nah, dude. That was just fantastic storytelling they were doing before. It's all right, each to his own. But just another example of the absolute horrible art in Vampire Fifth Edition. Look what's on the screen. You see that? You see that? It's in the book. Someone put that in the book. Someone paid to have that put in the book,
oh yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Nonsense. Nonsense.
yeah. It's like CGI, so you don't use too much of it.
Beast and Barbarians character sheet. Oh, that's kind of interesting. I actually love character sheets. Uh, This is interesting. I don't know this one. That's cool. But they're from all the different systems have their nice little nuances and stuff. 7C, which of course we know DeWolf is a fan of that. Wraith actually, Wraith was another interesting part of the layering of the World of Darkness, and even if you didn't play Wraith, it added so much to the cosmology. Actually, it was really important. It's just it's hard to really, without just doing a 10-hour show and going to every little detail and minutia. It's hard to explain to you exactly how deep and awesome the level of storytelling is in this Vampire the Masquerade. And I do, if you like this kind of thing, I really do suggest you take some time with it, because it's just the cosmology is fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
All
no
right,
disagreement.
pause. All right, pause for a moment. I do
Sure.
have
Yeah.
Okay.
so the part where the vampires have to feed.
Mm-hmm.
Is it like every roll that you do, they lose a certain amount of hit points until they hit a threshold, and then they have to actually eat. How do you time the eating part?
All right.
And
So for the old editions, you had a blood pool which was normally 10, and as you use throughout the night. You use more blood and uh, blood waking up, blood using your discipline. You get closer and closer to frenzy. So when you're halfway point, that's usually the marker where, hey, just to be safe, let me go feed. Um, because otherwise, if I have to heal or something happens where I have to use more blood, I'm going to end up my character's going to go end up frenzy, which is going crazy and seeking out
Right.
prey or to drink blood, not caring the consequences because of that drive.
Yeah. It became
Which,
micromanaged instead of actually a stress. Yeah.
right, but this one is every time when you wake up, the DM or the storyteller here in this case would be Chester said everybody roll a 1d10 for hunger, and if you pass it, which is 6, then you're okay. If you fail, then you get 1 point more hungry. The more points up to 5. So basically, every if you get to 5 hunger points, then you're going to go frenzy. So the closer you're on to the number 5, the more you're going to go frenzy. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, you won't.
That
You
your
don't.
character,
Because
yeah,
the vampire world is very interestingly structured inside the game as well, George.
right,
Yeah, vampires live in cities mainly. Although the gangrel, can tend to do countryside stuff, but mainly vampires are in cities. And vampires, even though they'll have their own layers, of course, they do. They'll also in a city they'll have Elysiums, and Elysiums are basically safe houses or sanctuaries for vampires to
mm,
hang out and live. But each city is also ran by a prince. And you, as a new vampire in the city, you need to present yourself to the prince. And the prince, of course, is more than likely has control of politics and the economy and all those kind of things. But the prince does not want a frenzying vampire running around his damn streets because that's going to cause trouble. It's going to mess
right,
with the masquerade, and therefore the prince himself will send out people to just take you out, right?
right. So, and here's another subtle part that wasn't really touched about with the new hunger system is that the more hungry you get, the more dices it replaces when you're doing an action. So, say you're doing like I want to sneak past this person, and you're at 3 hunger. Well, if your roll say is 5 dices, you would have to replace 3 of those dices with hunger dices. Meaning, if you only succeed, if you have a dramatic fail or a dramatic or critical success on hunger dice, that affects your outcome.
Okay.
Because that means either your beast is going to do something terrible or it's going to go over portion. So even then, that's why you want to keep your hunger down.
Hmm. Yeah, it's the added struggle of you're role playing a monster, right? So
Right.
it's the added struggle of trying to control the monster while you're trying to tell your story. Like I said, once again, vampire's not for everybody, but it is a lot of fun. And Denelli, dice
Yes.
is the plural of die. There is
Dice.
no word dices. Well, there
Dices.
is, but
I,
that is meant to make things into small pieces with a knife, usually.
dice and well, I said dice.
You said dices several times.
No,
Yeah,
dice.
I have it recorded
All
for
right. All right.
posterity. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
overthrow the hashtag overthrow the clans. Eagle 43 says yeah. But anyway, Vampire the Masquerade is a lot of fun. It's a really cool system. It really lends itself to great role playing. And like I said, let me reiterate this. We are going to be running a Vampire the Masquerade game in the future. We have an announcement on the FanSpeak page. If you are a role player, and more specifically a vampire role player, but you don't have to be, but if you're a role player, we want to create a small, tight team. I would like to have 4 players, is what I'd like. 4 players is standard. I could do with 3, but I want 4 players. I got Denali. I need 3 more. I need 3 people who know what they're doing, right? Because we want to represent that. And yes, comic book Bob, dear sweet baby Albus, that is hideous. That was a horrible picture. You're right. We want that type of thing because we've demonstrated different things with the Dillard's D&D thing, also with the Marvel role playing superhero game. We've demonstrated different aspects of tabletop role playing, and as you if you can't tell, well, several of us over here are really, really deep into this. Me particularly, I've been doing tabletop since I was 9. So literally 40 years I've been playing some form of tabletop role playing. It's a really big thing for me, and I really want to demonstrate to those who are interested to view it exactly how a campaign really runs in a tight way, because there's a huge difference between the people who are just coming on and learning it, like George here, and people who know what they're doing. It looks completely different thing. It's very interesting. So if you want to be part of that, Comic Book Bob or anybody else, contact us. Our links are down below. We want to put together a really good team to take a run at something. And I got a really cool story that I'm working up. We still haven't made all the final decisions, but and of course this is vampire, so it's not like I can make all the decisions anyway. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put us in a city where it's vampires after all. We're going to be in a city, and I'm going to have the cosmology of the city that is going on, and you guys are there for going to be interacting with that cosmology. Now I'll try to prod you here or there, but like I said, vampire doesn't tend to go the direction the DM might want it to be. But nevertheless, I have a very cool cosmology I'm putting together. I haven't made a final decision, but I'm kind of thinking Boston. But I don't know. What do you think, Denali? What city should we play in?
No, Boston's good. You
Yeah,
got Bunker Hill. You got the Lexington, the other cities around Boston's as well.
you got Salem.
Um,
Yeah,
Salem. So you have it's a rich in history. So
yeah.
Boston would be a good idea.
And Boston is also good for me. And now I could do any city. I can just go take the time to research and stuff. But I know Boston really well because I went to university there. So it's I know the city really well, so that helps for me. Knowing the city, it makes it a lot better for you, the player, and of course the viewer,
Right.
because I can lay it out. But Boston also is really good because of its history and vampires and stuff. New York is awesome. Chicago's awesome. L.A. I never was interested in. We were talking a little bit about Miami, but the problem with Miami is it's too small, and it has a lot of Latino culture stuff, which I don't know anything about. So it's kind of hard for me, and I'm sure I would screw it up. Because there's a lot of Cubans and there's a lot of Latino culture in Miami, and I just don't know much about that. I mean, you do, Denali, but I don't.
Yeah.
So you know,
Yeah. No, no, that's all right. Yeah. Basically, a lot of it to be what kind of story we want to run is basically going to be once we get the cast in, we talk about it because that's going to inform Chester a lot of details of how
yeah,
it's going to play out.
that's right.
Um, so
And
we
this
need to
is
get the cast in. Yeah,
Yeah, and this is a
but
little different too. Like with the D&D or the with the God's Blood campaign, I'm creating my own world on the fly. So it's just coming out of my imagination. Easy, easy, right? Well, maybe
mhm,
not easy, but easy. But Vampire is in our real world. That's the whole thing about the World of Darkness is it is exactly our world, but the shadows are alive, right? All of these superstitions and these fanciful stories that we have are real. Vampires are real, but it's not something that is generally known. But they are there. But it's our world, and therefore to make it really to do it well, you really need to represent the city in a proper way. The city itself is a character, so you know. And I'm not sure. Are we going to, Danella, do you think we should clan lock it, or should we just open it up, or should we do a cadet run, or what do you think?
that really depends on the players that we recruit, um, because it depends on exactly what kind of story you want to tell and what kind of
Yeah.
story we want to play as well.
Well, like I said,
Because
I
Mhm.
am simply creating the cosmology of Boston, which I've already, or really pretty much already done. But I'm
Right.
in that. So therefore, by going that route, you can do whatever you want, really. I
Yeah.
will have certain things that are going on, and of course, you can interact with them or not, right? I guess the reason I asked that question because if we clan lock it, which that means is that each player must be of a certain clan, that gives you more freedom. If I have to let everyone, be of different clans, then I have to give you a directed purpose why you would be together. Because in general, they won't work together that tightly unless there's a reason for them to. Now, there are easy ways to do it. You can do it. But it's just an option. I think locking it makes it more versatile for the player, actually.
Okay. No, I'm good. I'm down with it.
Yeah.
Um,
Shadows. There is one shadow. Hail the shadow. Yes, you're right, Eagle. Howdy, folks. Yeah, Evan Von Skyver says. And Nick W says, "Are the sparkly vampires real, Chester Busby?" No, they're not. There are no sparkly vampires. I shall kill everyone I see. Let me see. Comic Bob says,
yeah,
"Bullet."
there's sparkly vampires in the daylight, and you see them burn
That's true.
into dust.
Yeah. Bullet, the best way to approach role playing is to think about it like creative writing. That's true. It's kind of like you're all writing a story together and you're using your character as your voice. And that's exactly right. That's right.
Yep.
Evans Von Scarver says, "Is this the whole group?" No, no, it's just Denali and I. We're looking for three other players, but like I said, I want experienced players, particularly if I can find some vampire players, it would be great. But if you're a role player, it doesn't matter. You'll be able to adjust the system very quickly because you know what you're doing. So, is Booster going to play, and will there be any sparkly vampires? Well, if Booster wasn't sleeping during the time we do these shows, he might actually. Booster is an experienced role player, actually, although he seems to be mainly D&D. But but I'm not sure who we're going to get. But I'm asking that you guys come in and help us out to put this together. We're going to have a lot of fun. Yes, they're called Toreador.
Mhm.
Sparkly vampires, yes. Toreador. Yeah, they're the artistic. Yeah, they're sparkly. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Denali, anything else you want to say? Other than that, I think we'll probably we'll just get out of here early today.
Yeah. I think that's it. Um, if you're interested, just drop us a line. Talk with us. We get the players. We can start this. The background prep work
Yeah, yeah.
to do it.
Yeah, we can have
Meanwhile,
once we get our crew, we'll do some hangouts in the background and get all our characters made up, make certain decisions together, and then we'll be able to roll on from that. But like I said, we're going to take a little bit of a break from role playing anyway and do some other things. I think DeWolf had a couple of ideas of things he wanted to cover on Bugbear's Basement, so we're going to take a little break anyway. But when we come back to role playing, I guess we're going to be doing vampire. So I really would have liked to have finished the four acts I had for a God's Blood, but I think I went at it too randomly because I just wanted to demonstrate something. And even though I'm really happy with the cosmology I created for God's Blood, I think it's really cool, and I had a lot more to show you. It was just too random, and we started out with five, and then we had another person come in with six, and then we had another seven. So I mean, it just jumped all over the place, and it wasn't focused. And we're going to focus the vampire game, and we're going to have some role players, and then we're going to make sure everyone's consistent and they can be here on time. Comic Bob says the woman who put the crap photo art together would be a Toreador, if that tells you anything. Yeah, exactly, dude. Exactly. I fully endorse and or support Palladium. Yeah, so do I. Nosferatu. That was from Evan Von Skyver, by the way. But yeah, so if you guys are role players and you're interested, just contact me, dude. But we also do have that notification. But also, if you know someone who's really good, a really good role player, particularly a vampire gamer, get them in contact with us, dude. We need three. We're looking for three people. Ultimately, I can do it with just two additional people. I can, but I think having that four party is really handy. It allows you to do pretty much anything you want to do, right? So that's it. Go ahead and take us out of here,
yep.
Denali.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us on this vampire talk. Join us tomorrow for Comics News Today at 8 p.m. Eastern, followed by at Blacklist Universe, the Drawn and Core Pro Edition. But
Hmm.
as always, your perception shapes your reality, so always make it a good one.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Later, guys.
Mhm.